Shalom to the elect of Israel, the hopeful elect of you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Gotta give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the Akim, pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, bringing up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akwaf who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming into another lesson in true facts, faith, and education. Now this going into how these devils create these false flag attacks so they can push their agenda. So Lord's willing to be edified. First and foremost, I'm going to play this, the beginning of this, the 10-minute clip on how these devils talking about the Lord created Adam and Eve as a transgender. Hey, this some bugged out mess, man.
Is the senior associate leader of Bethel Church and co-founder of the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. Here's a clip from October 2016 with Volatin speaking at a women's conference. Watch this.
The first point I'd like to make in this conference meeting is that God made you after his time, and God made Adam. The word Adam and the word man, Hebrew word, it's the same exact word. He made Adam both male and female, as you know. How many know God's not a man?
Right, that's right.
God's both male and female, and if you impress women, then you reduce the revelation of God by 50%.
Wow.
Because God's not a
Hey,
man.
these Edomites bugged out of their mind.
Demonstrate the revelation of who God is.
Yeah, very good.
So basically, he just said that Adam was transgender and so was God. By the way, Bethesda Church took down the video of their Mother's Day service we reported on, and they actually had the audacity to file a copyright claim on the YouTube video of our coverage of the event. Fortunately, you can still see that video of Bethesda's and now Bethel's transgender God on TrueNews.com, so go there to watch. Back to you.
Hey, these devils is bugged out of their mind, man. Hey, man, the Lord gonna destroy these motherfuckers, man. Hey, excuse my language, man. The Lord gonna destroy these people, man. Now I'm gonna jump straight into it, man. I just had to play that so you can hear what's going on with these devils, man.
Well, this is True News. I'm Rick Wiles. We intended to continue our discussion today on techno-Nazi suppression of free speech. But today's suspicious attacks on 2 or 3 ships south of the Strait of Hormuz, however, have compelled us to focus on the renewed ramp-up for war with Iran. The attacks began at 6 a.m. when the U.S. Fifth Fleet heard a distress call from a tanker in the Gulf of Oman that had exited the Strait of Hormuz. 2 more ships were attacked 45 minutes later. Both ships were damaged by explosions. One of the ships was on fire. The ship was transporting a cargo of methanol from Saudi Arabia to Singapore. Edward Zoll has been following this story all day. Edward, what are the facts that we know as of right now?
So the attack occurred early morning in the Gulf of Oman, and this is outside the Strait of Hormuz, but very close to it. It's also very close to the Iranian base at the JAST Navy base, which has reportedly been doing tests with submarines and drones. So, of course, Iran, as soon as this happened, was an easy target for a lot of people to speculate on whether they were responsible. Now, it's 2 ships, Panama-listed tanker Kokura Courage, that's the Japanese-connected ship. And what's interesting about this is Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was actually sent, according to Uru, sent on behalf of President Trump to negotiate with the Iranians and try to get them to temper down, basically the rhetoric / the pushes to maybe reignite their nuclear program. Now, the second ship is actually a ship belonging to the Marshall Islands. It's called the Front Altair. And again, this was the ship that was reportedly suspected to be hit by a torpedo. The other ship they believe could have been hit by a torpedo, but it was at least 2 attacks in 3 hours on that first Japanese ship.
Well, there's a report, Reuters reported about an hour ago, attacks on 2 oil tankers near the Gulf of Oman, off the coast of Iran, did not use torpedoes. A person with knowledge of the matter told Reuters on Thursday.
Right. So the information coming out is still really fluid, and so earlier today everyone was betting on a torpedo because of the damage that they were observing on that first tanker, the one that everybody's seen the video on, and the smoke and the fire and everything. So that's where the initial speculation on the torpedoes came from.
Well, it didn't take U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo very long to figure out who attacked the ships.
Yes, he actually decided to host an impromptu press conference. Didn't take any questions, but he did make a very, I'd say, very boisterous accusation from the podium, and it was that Iran is responsible. We have a clip actually we can share from that.
Let's watch it.
It is the assessment of the United States government that the Islamic Republic of Iran is responsible for the attacks that occurred in the Gulf of Oman today. This assessment is based on intelligence, the weapons used, the level of expertise needed to execute the operation, recent similar Iranian attacks on shipping, and the fact that no proxy group operating in the area has the resources and proficiency to act with such a high degree of sophistication. This is only the latest in a series of attacks instigated by the Islamic Republic of Iran and its surrogates against American and allied interests. And they should be understood in the context of 40 years of unprovoked aggression against freedom-loving nations. On April 22nd, Iran promised the world that it would interrupt the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. It is now working to execute on that promise. In early May, the Revolutionary Guard Corps attempted the covert deployment of modified dhows capable of launching missiles. On May 12th, Iran attacked 4 commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz. On May 14th, Iran-backed surrogates attacked by armed drones struck 2 strategically important oil pipelines in Saudi Arabia. On May 19th, a rocket landed near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. On May 31st, a car bomb in Afghanistan wounded 4 U.S. service members, killed 4 Afghan civilians, and wounded bystanders. Yesterday, Iranian surrogates fired a missile into Saudi Arabia, striking the arrivals terminal of an international airport, injuring 26 people. Taken as a whole, these unprovoked attacks present a clear threat to international peace and security, a blatant assault on the freedom of navigation, and an unacceptable campaign of escalating tension by Iran.
Rick, it seemed like he was tying in a whole bunch of things happening all over the Middle East, going all the way from Saudi Arabia to Afghanistan in order to place the blame on Iran. I'm not saying that Iran's not responsible, but it just didn't make sense to bring in Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia and say this is Iran doing this today.
Well, it makes sense if you're a prosecutor.
Yes, he was really building his docket.
You're making the case to the jury.
I get you. So you're laying out the evidence. Look at all these things that have happened. Okay.
So, he didn't present any evidence. He simply said, it's our assessment that Iran attacked the ships. But he gave no evidence. Well, this is the same as all the cases that he listed.
Yes.
The United States said they believed Iran did it, but there was no evidence. Now, maybe Iran did it, but the Iranians would have to be off their rocker to provoke a war with the United States of America.
There ain't no evidence, man.
So,
North American Edomites do nothing but lie, man. All Edomites lie, but these North American Edomites,
we've been reporting
biggest
all
liars on
these
the planet.
incidents and then saying the propaganda for war is ramping up,
Right.
and people are being primed for war. I don't think
That's
there's
facts.
any war that's
That's-
going to come out
That's
of
through the
this.
Spirit of the Lord.
This is another piece of, quote, evidence that the prosecutor is going to use later, probably around October.
Well, the list is getting very thick. I mean, you just heard it took him about a minute to lay off all these alleged crimes, these alleged acts of war that Iran has committed on all the nations around them. And you just think if they did do something more going forward the next month, the American public, anybody listening to it, say, oh, of course, we must go to war with Iran because, look, they killed people. They've harmed shipping. They may make our oil go to $10 a barrel, $10 at the gas pump, a gallon.
Now, Rick, you mentioned October. Why October?
I don't know. It just seems like wars start in October. It seems like it's in, towards the fall. That's when they ramp up for a big war. I think there are things that other things have to get done.
Like the RFID microchip.
You have the Bahrain
The RFID microchip have to be
Economic
pushed.
meeting coming up in a week or two on.
Which seems to be an opportunity for everyone else except for the subject of the meeting, which was supposed to be the Palestinians. So
Right.
it seems now like it's an economic opportunity for everybody else.
And that's what somebody in the U.S. government said. Hey, this is not about the Palestinians and the Israelis. This is about economic opportunity in the Middle East. This is Jared Kushner's meeting in Bahrain, and then you have the G20 coming up at the end of the month.
Yes, it's like Japan.
And, there's not going to be a war while G20 is going on. There are other issues that have to be resolved. There's this trade war with China.
Right.
And so that's going to take front and center at G20 if Xi Jinping shows up. And you get the Palestinian issue. They're not going to. Here's another reason about October. The Israeli elections have been pushed out to what, September?
Yes.
But some are saying that could even push maybe to October if there's further delays, and even a peace plan might be pushed out.
But you could have a war just before the Israeli elections.
Which would give Israel the opportunity to declare
And
state of emergency.
who's the Minister of Defense of Israel right now?
The Prime Minister, Netanyahu.
Yes. Yeah. So, if you want to have a wag the dog scenario, I mean, he's still in legal trouble. He can't get his immunity bill passed to be declared immune from prosecution. So he's really desperate right now, and a war would come in handy in September. It wouldn't be after the Israeli election. It would be before. It would be about 2 weeks before the election.
And that's what they did last year, right? You reported this in June when I was in England. I remember you predicted that October of last year would be a very tumultuous time because that was the time period that these sanctions were implemented right before the midterms. And that actually helped President Trump. He did what you're explaining Benjamin Netanyahu may do with this, is that he used it as a campaign issue that he could run on.
And if you remember how intense it was building up with the U.S. and Iran? And Iran said, if you put those sanctions on us, we will close the Strait of Hormuz. And the deadline was November, was it 4th, the day before the November elections in the United States. And then what happened? There in October, the Trump administration handed out waivers.
That's right.
And-
Europe, China, and other clients.
And here among ourselves, we said, oh, war's off. It's been postponed. They handed out waivers. We got another 6 months. There's not going to be a war. But you can just watch the behavior, and you can discern when they're going to have a war.
Right.
So now we're going back to September, October again. We've lost about a year, and Netanyahu may not remain in power. And he is the one that wants the war. He is more adamant than any other Israeli politician for war with Iran. And they've got to get it done, and they have to get it done while both Netanyahu and Donald Trump are in power.
Right.
Because a new American president may not be willing to go as far as Donald Trump. So I don't think anything is going to happen in the near future. And I say near, I'm talking about July, August. But as we get into September,
Hey, you Edomites don't know what's going to happen. Your thoughts are not the Lord's thoughts. Neither your ways are his ways.
A shocking, stunning, something on par with September 11th, something that makes all the world gasp and go, I can't believe that just happened. Right? So is that going to be the sinking of a U.S. battleship in the Middle East? It could be something on that level. But they're going to need something dramatic to justify an all-out war on Iran. And I think it's
Biggest
just
false flag attack of all.
An unnamed official told CBS News
But
that
first, the
any
RFID
retaliation
microchip
from the
gotta be
United
pushed
States will
first.
depend on whether it can recover hard evidence linking the attacks to Iran. Something the official expects that they will find after a search of the debris. Well, no, they're not going to find the evidence that they need for the war now because it's not time for the war.
Right.
It's not time yet. All right. They'll find the evidence when it's time for the war. It's like the passports at 9/11.
Who are these guys that flew these planes? Well, look over here. I got
There's
a
the passports.
bag of unburned passports over here.
Right there in the rubble. Okay, there's some discrepancy. Iran said that the Iranian Navy helped rescue 23 crew members from the tankers, and the United States is saying that that is a flat-out lie. Do we have any knowledge of who's telling the truth?
It's hard to say in this because a lot of this first came from the CBS national security reporter who was able to quote anonymously a defense official in saying that the Iranians had no action involved in actually picking up the sailors. The Iranians didn't actually provide any evidence that they were intimately involved in picking up not just some but all of the sailors. That was the initial claim by Press TV. If we are to go by the statements which have come up, one of them being that an alleged torpedo attack happened, that actually came from a crew member who was rescued and brought onto the USS Banbridge. If we are to go by that, then the U.S. is probably telling the truth that they were involved primarily in the recovery of the vessels. The other reason for this is that why would the Iranian Navy be operating openly out in the open sea in the Gulf of Oman in vicinity potentially of the Fifth Fleet? The U.S. Fifth Fleet and that large armada that we sent about a month and a half ago are all in that region. And the Iranians have kept a lot of their warships, whether it be the small ships and destroyers, they kept them in port. They don't want a provocation to happen before they're even ready to start one.
Right. It was May 19. President Trump said, if the U.S. is harmed, U.S. interests harmed in any way, Iran would cease to exist. Remember that statement?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
You go Satan working. Always working. Matter of fact, while you're doing that, let me get these precepts. This is Job chapter 13 and verse 4. Hey, these devils, man, all they do is create false flag attacks so they can go into people's countries and take over, man. Because they trying to get their oil, man. This is all for oil, man. These devils here, these North American Edomites, all they want is oil, man. Okay, greed. They say they can never have enough, man. They will never be satisfied. This is Job 13 and 4. Now this is Mike Pompeo talking about it's Iran. Man, these Edomites be lying, man. Job 13 and 4. But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value. Now when you watch this TV show, it's called Forge of Fire. What they be making, man? Weapons, swords, daggers, all type of knives, okay, spears, weapons, man. And it's called Forge of Fire, man. Okay? These Edomites are number forgers of lies, man. That's what they do. Now when you go to Psalms chapter 58 and verse 3. Now Job was in the land of Uz, around a bunch of Edomites. And all Job wrote about was how wicked the Edomites was and how they was going to fall and how they was going to be destroyed by the Lord. So Job said, ye are all forgers of lies. Now this is what King David said. This is Psalms 58 and 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. King David said the wicked. What does Malachi 1, 3, and 4 say? The wicked is the Edomites. Okay? Job said they are all forgers of lies, they are all physicians of no value. King David said, Psalm 58 and 3, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent, meaning their words, okay? Their wickedness, what they do in the earth. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ears. This is Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22. And it reads, lying lips are abomination to the Lord Yahweh, but they that deal truly are his delight. It said lying lips are abomination to the Lord, man. Proverbs 6:16, and it reads, these 6 things doeth the Lord Yahweh hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. So these Edomites, all they do, they devise iniquity, man. They devise wicked imaginations, and their feet always running swift to doing mischief, man. Okay, I tell you in Proverbs 10 and 23 that it's a sport to the wicked to do mischief, man. This is what they do. This is Psalms 52, and I'm gonna read verse 2. The tongue deviseth mischief like a sharp razor, working deceitfully. Thy love is evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. That's the Edomites, man. All they do is love to lie, man. Okay? That's these Edomites all day long. Now this is Nahum chapter 3 verse 1. And it reads, woe to the bloody city, which is North America, Babylon the Great. Woe to the bloody city, it is all full of lies and robbery, the prey of departeth not. Okay? They the predators, you Edomites the predators, and the Israelites is the prey, man. Okay? And the prey departeth not. We still here, man, in captivity. Around these liars, these deceivers, these forgers of lies, these false flaggers. This is Proverbs 14 and 5. And it reads, a faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies, man. And who was a false witness? Esau, Edom. Okay? You read Hebrew Edomites, man. All you do is lie. This is Hosea chapter 7 verse 3. And it reads, they make the king glad with their wickedness, and the princes with their lies. So they make the king glad with their wickedness. Okay? They make the king glad with their wickedness, and the princes with their lies. Showing you that all the Edomites do, man, is lie and wickedness, man. That's all they could do. The Lord created them to be the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction. So all they do is lie, man. Okay? Last precept, and I'm going to finish this lesson. Finish this video out. This is John 8 and 44. And it reads, ye are of your father the devil, which the Lord was speaking with wicked Israelites, but this applies to these Edomites. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Going back to Cain, man. Because Cain told the Lord, and the Lord asked him what was Abel, he told him he don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Okay, Cain was the first liar, man. And Cain came back as who? Esau, man. Okay? And Abel came back as Jacob. So, these Edomites, all they know how to do is lie, man. And when you tell one lie, you got to keep the lies going. And that's what they've been doing since they came to rulership. Because what does Revelation say? Revelation 20, man. That he must be loose for a little season to go out to deceive the whole world, man. Okay? That's what they do. Liars, man. They are all forgers of lies, man.
He's on record as saying, if anything happens to the American interests, I'm going to wipe Iran off the map. So if you were another party that wanted Iran wiped off the map, that would be your clue. Well, the way to get it done would be to cause something to happen that Donald Trump thinks was done by Iran.
Right. It wouldn't take Colombo to figure that out. I mean, it'd be pretty obvious. There are certain players in the Middle East that would definitely benefit from any kind of blamed attack on Iran.
Rick, Secretary Pompeo in his press conference, the second half of it, it's not really being reported much by the media right now, but Secretary Pompeo, he made a pivot to actually accuse Iran of using nuclear blackmail. He also made a point to point out that there was a Japanese vessel attacked here, and it was an insult to the Japanese. And people don't know this, but Iran and Japan have a deep relationship when it comes to oil trade. They were one of the countries, as Doc mentioned, that got a waiver for being able to carry on trade with Iran.
I think about the term that he used, an insult to Japan.
Insult.
Now, Doc, you've been in
Yeah.
Asia. What does that mean?
Well, that goes to the honor of a nation or a national leader. And what makes the situation even more complicated is Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was in Iran that very day, talking to the Ayatollah. He was talking to him on behalf of President Trump. And so this makes it, now Shinzo Abe has to go back to Japan and say, one of our flagged tankers was attacked while I was there. So now the pressure is on him now to explain it back home, and that's going to engender support to, well, should we continue this relationship with Iran? I mean, if our tankers are going to be attacked and our prime minister was dishonored in that? So
Yes. So Secretary Pompeo, former CIA director, craftily used the term insulted.
yes,
He didn't say anybody else was insulted, just the Japanese.
the Japanese.
So
Well, the prime minister was there.
So that headline would be in the Japanese newspapers.
Yes.
Pompeo says Japan insulted by Iran.
Rick, the other thing that Secretary Pompeo snuck in right at the end was basically doubling down on President Trump's statement that if any interests, any soldiers, any of our assets in the region are threatened, then the United States is going to respond, and not just with economic or diplomatic, say, militarily.
Doc, you probably remember this. Edward Wooden, in the first Iraq War, George Herbert Walker Bush, number 41, he would mispronounce the name of Saddam Hussein. Okay, it was deliberate. People just thought, well, this is Texas George Bush. He can't say Saddam Hussein, and he would always call him Saddam.
Saddam, yeah.
Okay,
Get the last part of that in there.
no, it was an insult. All right, I forget what Saddam means in Farsi. The Iraqis speak.
Yes, it's Farsi.
Is it Farsi?
I'm going to go with that.
Okay, you're in Iraq. Okay, so whatever it means, he was insulting him every day on TV, calling him Saddam. All right, he was deliberate. Did he run the CIA?
At one time he did.
He ran the CIA. So the day Secretary Pompeo said insult, there's a reason that they use words like this.
Now, Secretary Pompeo also said that this was an attempt at nuclear blackmail as well.
Well, who's black? I don't get that.
Now, can you help me with this?
His argument is that Iran is holding the failed, basically at this point, the United States pulled out of the failed JCPOA, the nuclear agreement that Barack Obama brokered. They're using this as some kind of pivot to leverage countries around them into accepting either a peaceful nuclear program or potentially a nuclear weapons program. And they're using this in addition to provocations, unproven at this point, but provocations, to force nations around them to accept Iran becoming a nuclear power.
The Iranian leader, the Ayatollah, he said today to Shinzo Abe,
Yes.
Iran isn't building a nuclear weapon, but if we did, the U.S. couldn't stop us anyhow.
Right.
So I saw the Western newspapers, they spun the story as Iranian official says U.S. can't stop us from getting nukes. All right. But see, that's not really what he said. He said we don't want nukes, but if we did, you can't stop us.
As a matter of fact, he has issued a fatwa, which is a religious decree, saying we will not develop nuclear weapons. Now, he could change that at any time, but he has issued that in the past. And So there is that in place. Now, you may say, well, he doesn't have to honor that. Well, they have a religious honor system there that they do tend to follow. And so it's maybe he's living up to his word on that. I'm not saying that Iran was not involved in the attacks today or anything like that, but sometimes we assume so much because we're making an enemy out of people that haven't done anything to us yet.
And that's the point, is that it's like you think about the propaganda, even forcing to say, hey, we're not on Iran's side. We don't believe Iran,
Yeah.
and then making us talk about it in that manner. Really, the question everyone must ask when you look on the TV, you see a burning tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, is do you really think the Persians are going to come kill you in Iowa? Do you think the Persians are ready to land in Florida? No. Okay, it's ridiculous.
So about 2 weeks ago, there was the scientist, the high-level scientist with the United Nations, who issued a public statement saying, based on the evidence that he researched regarding the gas attacks in Syria, he said they were staged.
Yes.
Now, we reported it here, but I didn't see the report any other place in the United States of America.
Oh, Rick, the funny way they spun this one is they're claiming that he didn't have the proper evidence to be able to claim it was staged. Right? So,
But he was the top scientist for the United Nations investigating the allegation that Assad gassed his own people. And he said it was staged.
do you remember the lack there evidence that the outlets used to try to basically accuse Assad of the chemical weapon attacks, and multiple ones? Let's say the alleged chemical weapon attacks. They were literally showing a video when they could care less if it was doctored, and then turning out one of them was doctored. But that was their evidence. And even the United States claimed that they based their decision off of social media postings, not scientific testing.
That's right. Well, the whole idea of war with Iran. All right, let's keep in mind, Iran is Persia. Persia's been around for a long, long time. It's in the Bible.
Right. And when Daniel prophesied about Persia, Persians and the Medes,
That's right.
as being a global empire. And really, that has not stopped to this day. I mean, they still are a significant threat, as far as the global economy is concerned.
And at one time, Persia was really the greatest power on earth. I mean, I guess probably around the 6th century, something like that. They dominated the world. I mean, they have it's like the Chinese. They've been around a long, long time. It's one of those countries that has a long history. It's not like the United States, and we're 300 years old, and we think we're somebody. The Persians have been around, just like the Chinese.
The Persian was the one that took down the Babylonian Empire, man.
This young upstart over here.
Yeah, you guys are like 300 years old.
That's why the Lord said, that which was shall be again, and it's nothing new under the sun, man. Persia and Russia is going to be the one to take down North America,
So we got to be keeping in mind,
which is the new Babylon.
we're talking about, it's not really the Iranians, it's the Persians.
It's the Persians.
Number two, Iran is mountainous. It's not a flat country.
You can't just roll divisions of tanks across that area and conquer the cities. It's very hard fighting. It's like Afghanistan, actually. No?
So you commanded tanks in Iraq, right?
I was a tank driver.
Tank driver in Iraq, okay? So was Iraq mountainous or flat?
Very flat.
Okay.
Very flat.
So if you had mountains, how would that complicate your job as a tank driver?
Well, first of all, you wouldn't be able to drive off-road. You wouldn't be able to go into certain cities. And two, it'd be very hard to supply the fuel necessary to basically keep a tank, but forget just the protector, any kind of combat unit, the logistics necessary to keep them in the fight would be very tough, almost impossible in some parts of Iran.
Well, what about the size of Iran as well?
It's about 4 times bigger than Iraq. All right. Did the United States subdue Iraq? No, we destroyed Iraq.
Right. But we never had total control of the nation at any given time.
No, and we made a mess of Iraq.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything good for Iraq. And so now we're being told that we're going to go into another country 4 times as big. Let's not forget that just, a month ago, John Bolton held his war powwow in the Pentagon, and reportedly we're talking about, what was it, 1.2 million
1.2 million.
1.2 million soldiers to invade Iran. Have you forgotten that? That's like a month ago. John Bolton, right? Lusting for war, an invasion force of 1.2 million soldiers to go in to Iran. And, you know, do you really want your son? How about your daughter? Because, see, we're now in a new world, a new age because of the feminists in America. So your daughter could be drafted. Think about that. Your 18-year-old daughter could be drafted to go to Iran to fight Israel's war.
Oh yeah, they going. They
How about
going.
that? How's that make you think?
How
How's
about
make you
that?
feel? All right, your daughter being drafted by the U.S. military to go to Iran to fight the Persians on behalf of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Wow.
That's what this is all about.
This is Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and women, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. The eyes shall not spare thy children. In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees excellently shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah.
Hey, Netanyahu will fight until the last American is standing.
Not the last Israeli, the last American.
That's right.
Right.
The last American. That's right. You don't see Israeli soldiers fighting foreign wars.
Right.
They don't do it. You see American soldiers fighting Israel's foreign wars. And as long as the American people fall for this stuff, it's going to continue. I think my personal feeling is that what happened today is another false flag. We're being incrementally led to a major event that most likely will happen around September or October of this year.
Right.
And Iran will be blamed. And if you and I dare call it a false flag, we will be denounced as unpatriotic, as conspiracy theorists, and the tech companies will say they have to be deplatformed. They cannot be allowed to spread their lies when America has been attacked.
Right. They may go as far as saying we're conspiring with the enemy.
Because who owns the tech companies? The Zionists.
Elites.
We're inside a Zionist matrix.
Rothschild.
And the Goyim's trying to break out of the Zionist matrix. And they're controlling the narrative. And they want war. They want war with Iran. And they want American men and women to fight and bleed and die and be maimed so that the Israeli soldiers can stay home. That's the way this game works.
The Rothschilds fund
And
both
I'll do
sides of
my
the war.
best to call it out. So,
One other aspect of why we need to think twice about this war with Iran is the Strait of Hormuz itself, right, Rick? I mean, Iran, really, it'd be a shooting gallery for Iran. So, for any ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz, because we sit back here in the U.S. and we think, oh yeah, that's a big old body of water over there and everything, but actually this is a very narrow passageway, and that Iran sits in a very strategic location to be able to control the entrance and exit of the Strait of Hormuz.
About one-third
They
of
own the
Hormuz
Oman,
goes through.
so
what is the width of the Strait of Hormuz? Is it bigger or smaller, more narrow than the English Channel?
I'd say I don't know actually. I think it's actually about as narrow. It may actually be more narrow than the British Channel because you can't see the other side. That's the trick with it. The English side, you cannot see the French coast if you're standing on the very tip. I've read that you can see the other side of the Gulf of Oman from where the Iranian.
But it's a short distance for missiles.
Yes, and that's the short-range missiles that they could fire from the center of the country. That's Iran. Every weapon system they have can be brought to bear. And one of the things that came out today, Rick, is that because all ships now are potentially at risk of being attacked, who knows what these attacks are, but are at the risk of being attacked, there is talk of U.S. ships, I'm talking about our warships, being assigned to basically escort these oil tankers through that strait. So there is an opportunity. There is now, if they do this, Our ships, every time one of those thousands of oil tankers who go through that region monthly goes through, are at risk of being attacked.
And America, we wouldn't be facing any of this if we weren't defending Israel.
Right.
The Iranians are not my enemy. We're in this situation because America is joined at the hip like a Siamese twin to Zionist Israel. America has become Israeli occupied territory.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
That's what it is, Doc.
They dictate our foreign policy, they dictate our military actions.
They own all the tech companies here, they own the media, they own the banks. We're in Israeli occupied territory. And
Then we're no different than the Palestinians.
well, they haven't pointed guns at us yet. And it's not like the Palestinian farmers that get rifles pointed at their head when they go to the Israeli military checkpoint and ask permission to enter their farm field to gather cucumbers.
Right.
Do you know Palestinian farmers have to get military permission from Israel to go into their fields?
We did the story in the headlines about the Gaza fishermen too. I mean, they can't even operate. They've been doing this for centuries, fishing these waters, and now they can't even feed their families. Go out on a fishing boat, feed their families anymore.
You had to ask permission, you don't own it.
So I'm going to give a couple precepts. I'm going to close out on this. This is Jeremiah 51:11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushua, have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes for his devices against Babylon, which is North America, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen. Prepare the ambushes. Okay? Prepare the ambushes, man. For the Lord Yahweh have both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon, which is you Edomites. Joel chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face towards the East Sea. The East Sea representing the Persian Gulf, the Euphrates, and his hinder part towards the utmost sea, meaning the Red Sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he have done great things. Great wickedness, man. Okay? That's talking about all you nations. Mainly you Edomites. Okay? And you drafting all these 2/3 of Jake, men and women, transgenders and lesbians, bisexual, homosexual, fighting your war. And these other countries have straight men in their war. Okay? You go to these other countries, man. Ain't no damn women in their wars, man. In their armies. In their Marines, in their navies, in their air forces. All men. But here in North America, they got transgenders and bisexuals and lesbians and homosexuals. Okay? Pedophiles and all type of wickedness, man. And you think they're going to be able to stand up against these men and these Chinese and these Russian armies, man? And these Iranian armies? You North American Edomites are fools, man. Hey, so with that, we give our praise to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Rakah Qurash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the ark and pushing the truth throughout the four ends of the earth, waking up the hope for the elect. Shalom to the Atwaf, to the few Atwaf who are listening and learning. Shalom.